past few years. My question is about your background, and I wondered, when you came to Congress, since you've been in Congress, what's been the most difficult vote that you've had to take?
That's a really good question. I don't know if this, I'd have to really give that some thought about the most difficult. I'll tell you, within my first year in Congress, I was faced with a difficult question I didn't expect would come so soon. I was sworn in January of 2013, and it was that summer that, I believe it was in August actually, that President Obama announced that he was going to come to Congress with a question about whether or not to launch a military attack against Syria. And you remember this? There was a red line that was drawn, and at first I think he said he was going to launch an attack, a military attack against Syria, and then later said that he would come to Congress for congressional approval. I'll never forget, I was pumping gas at a gas station near our house shortly after this news broke, and a woman just pulled over, and she came over and she grabbed my arm and she said, "Please, please, please don't allow them to start another war." I went on to hear from a lot of folks, both across my district in Hawaii and in other parts of the country, reflecting that similar message. They cut Congress is usually in recess the month of August. They cut the recess short. We went back to Washington. We started to get briefings and get the information, both open briefings, classified briefings, so that we could best make the best decision based on the situation. And after gathering all the information, I came to the conclusion that launching a military attack against Syria, given their alliances within the region and elsewhere, would not be in the best interest of our country or our national security. And I was the first Democrat that came out publicly, first Democrat in Congress that came out publicly and said so, in disagreeing with what the president was proposing. I got a lot of backlash for that, saying, from the administration, phone calls saying, "Hey, look, you're from the president's home state of Hawaii, you're a Democrat, what are you doing?" I was speaking out for my brothers and sisters in uniform, and for the American people and for our national security, actually fulfilling the reason why I was running for Congress, why I ran for and got elected to Congress in the first place. Long story short, I think the rest of you know, that vote actually never ended up happening. I think there was a similar vote in the Parliament in the UK that was voted down, where they rejected that course of action. And if that vote had come to the House floor, I think it would also have been rejected. And President Obama went on to use diplomacy to try to get as many of the chemical weapons out of Syria as possible, and so on and so forth. I think he exercised a lot of courage in not unilaterally moving forward with that military attack.
Thanks. Yes, sir. That's you?
Yeah. As president, how would you help to keep our schools safe from gun violence?
Thank you. It's heartbreaking that this is a question that comes up as often as it does, especially when we have kids who come out to our town halls who are asking this question. I saw recently an advertisement for like an elementary school kid backpack that's bulletproof. That these are the kinds of things that people are now having to think about, both kids and their parents and loved ones, about how to best protect their kids. First thing, this is a big topic that there's no easy answer or solution to. I recently introduced legislation in Congress that seeks to gather the data and information from all of the different school shootings that we have seen occurring, so that we can start to look at, hey, what are the early flags that we hope people would have seen earlier. If you've got a kid who's in a state of serious distress or in need of help, or who's dealing with other issues that eventually leads them to taking this action. Maybe there's something that we could have done sooner to actually help prevent this. What we found as we were trying to answer this same question is that there really was no collection of information, or no answers to these questions that we were seeking about what specific actions could have been done, especially specifically within our schools, to prevent these kinds of tragedies from occurring. So that's legislation that we've introduced to begin this process so that we can make fact-based decisions about how best to protect our kids. Look, I think there's common sense, bipartisan legislation, some of which we've passed through the House of Representatives, that's sitting before the Senate now, to do things like make sure that we have universal background checks, to close some of the loopholes that have been exploited, unfortunately, where guns have gotten in the hands of those who have sought to do harm to others. I think these are common sense things that can and should have happened a long time ago. I think when people are polled on these examples that I'm talking about, most people think that they've already been passed into law and support it. That's not the case. The real deeper issue, I think, yes, it has to do with how we as a society can help make sure that guns are not getting into the hands of the very few who seek to do harm to others, while still respecting every American's Second Amendment rights. But there are also other issues about us as a society in how have we got to a point where we're seeing more and more school shootings, where in cities like Chicago, a friend of mine who's a congresswoman there, she speaks out loudly about the kids who are shot as they're walking to school in the mornings, but whose names are never in the headlines. Their stories are never told. About gang violence and other issues that are also taking the lives of the innocent. These are deeper issues that we as a society need to come together to confront and address. None of this can happen so long as this issue continues to be a divisive one, where you have people in one camp, others on the opposite side, and both screaming at each other, but no one really listening, so that we can get to the root cause and help to save people's lives.
Aloha, Tulsi, and namaste. I am actually here on behalf of my libertarian friends and myself. It's an honor to talk to the next Democratic candidate or nominee for president. So our concern, I don't know if you've spoken with a lot of libertarians, and I was a little bit dismayed tonight because I've only heard mention of the two sides, which we call the duopoly, which we think are two sides of the same coin. And so for us, we feel that there should be other voices, third voices that can come out, and I do think that the CPD has obstructed those third voices. Also, libertarians, we consider the Second Amendment sacrosanct. I am actually a daughter of the Revolution. My great-grandfather 13 times over fought in the Battle of Saratoga. It is instilled in me to be able to defend myself against an unjust or tyrannical government. In a poll, the ABC News Washington Post poll, it did show that anywhere between 9 to 44% of those polled opposed certain aspects of gun control. I went ahead and kind of looked at that, took those percentages compared to the entire population of the United States. And that comes to between 29 to 144 million people who oppose it in one way or another. I'd like to go ahead and just offer that it's not because we do not care about the children. We don't care. It's not that we don't. What we really focus on is individual liberty. And we want to have the ability to defend ourselves against a government that may become oppressive. And libertarians, we're not here to fight, we're actually for peace. I just want to let you know we commend you for meeting with Assad. We commend you for your non-interventionism. We also commend you for recently speaking out about 9/11 and looking at Saudi Arabia's role in that, okay? So we follow you very closely. Really have happy that I was able to see you. I drove an hour and a half to see you, so. And I just wanted to express, though, that we are actually a constitutional republic. We are not a pure democracy. So for those of us, for that 29 to 114 million, what can you do as president to help us feel that we are also being represented, that all the people are being represented? We're willing and able to come for solutions. We want to talk. We libertarians, honestly, we've been kind of watching this thing going back and forth, okay? And we'll call out both sides. We've been wanting to have, dialogue. We want people to come to the table, but it's just so volatile out there right now. I just wanted to express our appreciation and just request, hopefully, that you might be able to mention third parties a little bit as a possible, solution. But I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.